Hello and welcome to Live with the Paper Pixie, episode 390. I'm Julie DiMatteo, the Paper Pixie, coming to you live from Alpharetta, Georgia. Today is Wednesday, September 24th, 2025. If you're watching us live, say hello and where you're watching from, and hello to my replay watchers. I have a quick and easy project for you tonight. Let me give you a little sneak peek. It is a half sheet gift box with a little special sentiment surprise on the inside. I love doing that. So we're going to do that tonight. I have been traveling. So last week, let's see, we got back from Salt Lake City. Then we did last week's live, and then the kids and I went to Cincinnati for the weekend and came back late Sunday night, and then I'm off to Boston on Sunday. So it's a little hectic around here. So that's why we've got an easy project. Let's see, what else do I have to tell you? If you got a question for me tonight, put a Q in front of that question. That makes it into my queue. I'm going to save all the questions until the end of tonight's live stream. That way I can focus on demonstrating tonight's project, but I will stay on to answer all of your questions. I want to give a special shout out to my Pixie patrons. You'll recognize them in the live chat with the little magic wand icon next to their name. And tomorrow night is episode 24 of my Pixie Patron members only stream. I had to move it just to fit my schedule, but that's going to be tomorrow night. If you've been thinking about joining the Pixie Patrons, it's just $4.99 per month. The price of a cup of coffee, and it is an hour-long live stream, a little bit more laid back than my typical Wednesday night streams. I interact with the chat more, and I demonstrate 2 cards, and then included in that is a downloadable card template for my Pixie patrons. So we have lots of fun. You can join the Pixie Patrons by either clicking the join button below if you see it. If you don't see it, it's device dependent. There's also a link in the description. When you shop with me, you earn Pixie... Oh, I was like on auto. When you shop with me, you earn Stampin' rewards on orders of $20 or more. All you need to do is to have a Stampin' Up! Online account and opt into the Stampin' Rewards program. Once you do have those 2 things in place, it's totally free to participate, but every order of $20 or more earns 10% back in Stampin' Rewards that you can use your way. They are good for 12 months from the date earned. You can save them up, you can spend them as you earn them. The only caveat to that is you can't spend them on the order you earn them on, but you can use them on the next order if you like. My customers are kind of doing a couple of different things, saving them or using them. They are meant to be used, so be sure that you are using those. Let's see. If you use my magic shopping link, thepaperpixie.com/shop, that will auto-magically take you to the Stampin' Up! Online store, shopping with me as your demonstrator, and I'm so very grateful. Yesterday, was yesterday the 23rd? Yes. The 12 Days of Crafting Advent Calendar dropped. I've had a couple of questions about it. I've got it linked in the video description as of this afternoon. It was still available. I haven't seen that it's gone on low inventory, but I do expect at some point that will sell out. It is an all-occasion crafting calendar of products. It's really... let's see, it's $99, but the value of it far exceeds that price. I want to say it's $120 in value of the products in the box itself, plus you get a stamp set, which is kind of a double stamp set. It's 2 acetate sheets or window sheets of stamps. You can actually see the stamp set in the online store. That's linked in the video description for you. During the Million Sales Retreat last week, the group of us, we each got to open the doors in the 12 Days of Christmas Advent Calendar. So while it's called that, the products in it are not Christmas related. So kind of a little gift to yourself or a gift for a friend. Buy one for yourself, buy one for your friend. It's got great products in there. You will love all of them coordinate together. And I think it's going to be products that you'll use all year round. So take a look at that. I would order earlier than later in case it sells out. You never know with Advent calendars like that how quickly they'll sell out. So the other thing that's coming up on October 1st is an amazing starter kit opportunity. There's 2 different choices. You can pay $35 and get $125 in product of your choice, or you can pay $99 and get $185 in product of your choice. So if you've got a really big wish list, go for the $99 version. If you're on a budget, but you want to get lots of product for a low cost, go with the $35 option, and then every order after that, as long as you stay an active demonstrator, will be at 20% off. It is a great opportunity to give the demonstrator perks a test drive. One of the favorite perks of everybody is the 20% discount, as well as the community, and you get to see catalogs first and pre-orders and all kinds of fun stuff that come with being a demonstrator. So it's a really easy option to say yes to at $35 for $125 or $99 for $185, and they ship for free. So that's a great added incentive. That's an additional 11% savings. So that's October 1st through the 31st. If you have any questions about joining Stampin' Up!, feel free to reach out to me, support@thepapperpixie.com. Always happy to answer your questions. So why don't we go ahead and jump into tonight's project? Let me flip the camera. Actually, I have show and tell. I almost forgot. I'm sure Nolan is listening to make sure I don't forget. So maybe show and tell in a little story time really quick. So Nolan, Lily, and I went to Cincinnati. Brian stayed home with our senior dog, Kona, this weekend. And we went for a family wedding in the Oregonia area. We went to Whispering Hearts Event Center, I think is what it was called. So we flew from Atlanta to Cincinnati, and we got to meet up with Bubba G, which I don't know, is Bubba G in the chat? Hey, Gregors. So I got to hang with my brother and his beautiful wife, Anne, and their wonderful kids, Anthony and Isabella. It is so fun to see my kids with Greg's kids because they just have so much fun, and there's usually tears shed when they have to say goodbye to each other, so that's the sign of a really good time. And I always say cousin time is the best time. Really, any family time is the best time. But anyways, the kids got at the wedding, it was my cousin Maddie's wedding and her awesome husband, Tyler. She had like little goodie bags for the kids. The kids had so much fun with what are the glow things, like the glow necklaces and bracelets, and they had these foam light up things. The kids were having so much fun. We tore it up on the dance floor, but in the goodie bag, I think it was in the goodie bag, was puzzles. And so Nolan worked on his puzzle for quite a while yesterday, I think, but that's what he wanted to show you. And it's fitting because my high school mascot was, well, both mine and Bubba G's was the tiger. So anyways, one of the other cool things about going to Cincinnati is I got to go visit my alma mater, Miami University in Oxford, Ohio. Took the kids to campus. We went to my favorite bagel and deli shop. We drove by my old house. I made the kids get out and take a picture. And then Nolan loves telling the story. He felt like such a rebel because I parked in permit parking, really for like 60 seconds, so the kids could jump out and I could get a picture of them at Pearson Hall, which has the Miami University 1809 name, like in bronze, with flowers with a big M for Miami. So it was a whole lot of fun. But it was super fun to visit Cincinnati again. That was kind of my home away from home. Well, really, Oxford was for 5 years. But on the way back, we got on the plane, and the flight attendant handed the kids, the wings pins, and then asked the kids if they wanted to say hi to the pilots. So they kind of stepped into the cockpit, said hi to the pilots, and both the pilots were like, "Would you like to sit in the cockpit seats?" And the kids were like, sure. Like they weren't sure what to do. And I was like, don't touch any buttons. Anyways, so I got really cool photos of the kids, each of them sitting. Nolan was sitting on the left and Lily was sitting on the right. And it was just a very cool experience. So I didn't expect the pilots to offer sitting in the cockpit. That was very, very cool. So let's see. Oh, Susan, thank you for the super chat. Hello, Nolan. Oh, he brought me his wings. We fly Delta here in Atlanta, so those are the wings that he got, and Lily got them as well. So little sidebar story there. Would you like your wings back, buddy? There you go. All right, so for this project, all you need is a 5.5 by 8.5 piece of cardstock. That is why I'm calling it a half sheet gift box. Let's see. Why don't I show you the products we're using? let's do that first. I have all the products I use linked in the description. This is the Autumn Toile Sweet Collection is the products that we're using. So if you go to page 39, 40, and 41, you'll see all the products. This is kind of a mega suite. I am going to be using the Amber Autumn Bundle, what is it called? Autumn Toile, right? Yeah, you think I would know after doing paper shares. This is the Autumn Toile Designer Series paper, and what's really cool about this one is you get 3 sheets of each pattern. So it's 3 each of 4 double-sided designs. Typically our papers are 2 each of 6 double-sided designs. And then, what else am I using? The streaked dots, put those somewhere. These are really, really cool. A little hard to see. They almost look, I think they call them streaked, but they almost look like a dark marble or granite. It's hard to pick up that pattern on the camera there. I am using, again, the Amber Autumn Suite or Bundle. I love the sentiments in this one. This is such a fantastic autumn bundle. We're going to be using, this is the only die I'm using from the bundle. And then I love this. This is so great for card fronts. And then I'm also, I think I used this last week, the week before last, or 3 weeks ago, traditional labels dies. Okay. All right, and then here is the Autumn Toile paper, up close and personal. I love this one. That's what we're using today. I love this pattern too. So again, 3 each of 4 double-sided designs. I love the foxes on here. All right. The other thing we're using is this specialty paper, and it is, hold on, earthen toned metallic specialty paper. And it's a really rich copperish brown, really pretty, okay? So up close, here is the box, okay? And you can see that really pretty dark copper. I love that label die cut there. And then when you open it, it says, "Blessed to have you in my life." If I bring it down, you can see that better. And I put designer series paper. This is just the back side of the pattern I put on the outside of the box. And then I just added little rounded corners here. That is totally optional. I thought it gave a little bit of a nice touch. All right, so that's what we're gonna create. And I'll show you some things that fit in the box when we're done. All right, so then starting with a 5.5 by 8.5 piece of Cajun Craze cardstock, I'm gonna bring in the Simply Scored, and along the 5.5 inch side, I'm gonna score this at 1.5 from each side. So 1.5, 1.5. And then I'm gonna turn it to the long side, and I'm going to score it at 1.5 and 3.5 from each side. So 1.5 and 3.5, okay? So you're gonna have a grid that looks like this. I do have a template for you. First, let's go ahead and fold and burnish on all the score lines. This week has been one of those weeks. I forgot to put my watch on. Here we go. I'm not on Do Not Disturb. Whoops. Okay, let's do that. Do Not Disturb. On. It's probably a spider walking across the Ring doorbell. It's just been one of those weeks where I've had some technical issues that have sidetracked me from getting other stuff done. So anyways, I know you guys all have those weeks too. I'm having like bot attacks on my website with like fake orders, and it's driving me bonkers, but my blog administrator's trying to help me. There's a bunch of us that are having it happen to us, but it's like it's like the bots don't have anything better to do. Okay, everything's been folded and burnished. Let me bring in the template. All right, so that's the template, and I've still got it in landscape. So I've got it long ways, and I'm going to cut up each of the vertical score lines and stop at that first horizontal score line. And I'm just going to cut right down the middle of the score line. So it's going to be 4 cuts on each side, a total of 8 cuts. There's that. Kind of released all of those sections, and I'm going to rotate it 180. Going to do the same thing, cut up each of the vertical score lines and stop at that horizontal score line. Like so. Okay, now when we fold this one section into the box, I think hopefully you can see though that cardstock is actually going to be overlapping, and I always try to avoid that because I just feel like it adds a little bit too much bulk and kind of gets in our way. So I'm actually going to trim off a 1/2 inch from each of those tabs. So let me put this back off to the side. You can absolutely eyeball this if you want to. I love to bring in the paper trimmer, and I'm going to fold in the larger 2 sections. So I've kind of isolated the 2 outside ones and the middle one. These are 1.5 inch squares. And I'm gonna line up this folded edge at the 1 inch mark on my paper trimmer. So I'm looking for that 1 inch vertical line. Look for the number 1 up here. And I'm going to butt this up against the top there. And then it is the 4th vertical line to the left of the cutting groove. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and one fell swoop, just cut off a 1/2 inch there. So now these tabs are 1 inch and these sides are still 1.5 inch. Okay, so I'm going to rotate it 180 and do the same thing. Fold the big sections out of the way, lining up that folded edge at 1 inch, or alternatively this right edge at 1/2 inch. Okay, whatever's easiest for your eyes to see. All right. So now bringing that template back in here. All of these kind of smaller tabs that we just created, we're going to come in and miter cut those. So I'm going to keep those larger sections folded up and out of the way, and then I'm going to come in and miter cut. There we go. So those 3 are now miter cut, and I'm going to turn it to the opposite side. Get those guys out of my way. Just one project tonight, Rosie. All right, there we go. Move this out of the way. Okay, so now this is identical, left to right, right to left. I did that backwards with my hands, left to right, right to left. So you just want to pick one side to be the top of our box. Okay, so I'm not going to punch the finger notch just yet. We're going to adhere designer series paper first, and then we'll punch that. But I do want to add the rounded corners here. So it's going to be this corner and this corner. So I like to just fold everything out of the way and come in with the corner rounder here, punch. And punch. Like so. Okay. Now we're gonna go ahead and put on some designer series paper, and just remember our finger notch is gonna go to the side closest to those rounded corners, okay? All right, so we have a total of 7 pieces of designer series paper. You can do more, you can do less. Totally up to you how you want to customize this box. Get all my pieces here. All right, so I'm going to turn the box this way because again, this is going to be the front, top of our box. These sections are going to end up making the bottom. So I'm going to start by kind of laying out my designer series paper in a way that it's going to go on the box. So we have got, I'm going to lay these out first and then I'll tell you the measurements. So we're going to start with the patterned paper, okay? And we have, let's see, technically there's 2 pieces that are 1 3/8 by 2 3/8, and I believe that's these 2. Let me double check that. 1 3/8? Nope, these 2. 1 3/8 by 2 3/8. Let me just double check. Yep, 1 3/8, 2 3/8. Both of those are going to be in landscape. I've got 2 pieces then that are 1 3/8 by 1 7/8. 1 3/8, 1 7/8. Those are these 2 pieces. Those are also in landscape. And then I'm going to have 3 pieces that measure 1 7/8 by 2 3/8. And all of these measurements will be on the project sheet that I'll have finished for you guys tomorrow. If you're on my email list, you'll get the project sheet via email. I will also add it to the YouTube description. All right, so let's start on the box itself. So I have actually laid these out in the direction in which they're going to go on the box. So this is going to be the front. These 2 are going in the same direction where the pattern goes from top to bottom. This one is going to look upside down, but once the box is together, it'll end up being right side up. And then these 2 are going to go top to bottom this direction, but we also need to round the corners of those. So take your time. You want to make sure you're rounding the correct corners. Okay, so I'm going to do this corner here. That's going to go there. And then I want to do this corner because it lines up with that corner. There we go. Okay, so now let's go ahead and glue this down first, and then we'll come in and do our pieces that are going to go on the inside. All right, we're just going to start with this bottom one here. I love this pattern so much for the fall. I'm ready for fall. I don't know about you guys, those of you in the US. It's been a little hot lately. I'm excited to go. I'm flying into Boston, but actually traveling to Portsmouth, New Hampshire on Sunday for next week, which, by the way, I will not be live next Wednesday because I will be at Creator Camp, hosted by Ecamm Live, which is the software I use for live streaming. Some of you may remember I went to Creator Camp last year and I had so much fun. So that's where I'm headed, but I'm excited because I think the leaves have already started to change. And I can't wait to learn new things and see people in real life again. All right, so there's that one, okay? And again, this one looks like it's going upside down, but ultimately when the box goes together, it'll be right side up. I'm going to turn this sideways. I'm going to turn this way. There we go. All right, so now on the inside, so if I kind of like dry fit this so you can see how it's going to go together. The sections that don't have any designer series paper, that's going to be the bottom of our box. And then this is going to end up being our top with the beautiful paper. It's going to look like that. So we want our, well, I guess it doesn't matter which direction it goes. But if you were using a directional pattern, again, these measure 1 7/8 by 2 3/8. It's just the back side of the pattern we're using on the outside. I'm going to be putting those in the only sections that they'll fit in. But if you've got a directional paper, you're going to want both of those going in the same direction where it goes top to bottom, where this side has the designer series paper. But this is a non-directional pattern, the one that I'm using. Happy birthday to Scott D today. That's awesome. You mean it's his 29th birthday? Just kidding. All right, so that one's gonna go there, and then this one here. There we go. And then the last thing we're gonna do before we put this together is I'm gonna add that little finger notch. Now this is totally up to you what size circle punch or what shape punch you wanna use. I'm just gonna use a 1-inch circle punch. I got this off of Amazon. And then we're just gonna punch. I'm literally going in maybe 1/4 of the way. We don't need much. And that's just going to be a nice little finger notch for the recipient to be able to get into the box. Okay. All right. So now we're going to glue stuff together. I like to start on the box base itself first. So we'll start on one of the tabs that's kind of the furthest away from the lid. And I'm just going to use liquid glue for this. And I'm going to put liquid glue on the tab, and then I'm going to line up this score line with this cut edge. And the liquid glue really helps because then I can get things kind of slid into place. I've got a little bit of wiggle room. So liquid glue on the tab, and again, lining up the score line with that cut edge. And I kind of manipulate the paper. I've got my thumb on the outside and my index finger on the inside, and I'm just trying to line up that corner to make it look really nice there, okay? So then we're going to focus on the opposite tab here. And same thing, lining up the score line with that cut edge to make that sharp corner there. And again, I'm just kind of pulling and sliding things into place with my index finger and my thumb, index finger inside, thumb on the outside. And I'm just making sure like that top edge is all nice and lined up as well. Then we're going to come to these middle tabs. Those are also going to stick into the base. And because we did that little trim, those aren't going to overlap, okay? Just kind of however you can get your hand in there. The middle tabs are just a little bit wonky. Once you get it there though, it's golden from there. There we go. And then we'll do the opposite tab. Tuck that in there. There we go. So inside the box, you'll see those two tabs we glued into the base to create the base, trying to catch the light there. Okay. So now what I like to do for the lid, because this is basically fitting over the base, I didn't adjust any of the measurements because this is a very simple box. What I like to do is kind of dry fit the lid itself and kind of fold those tabs over. You'll see that it's not a perfect fit here. There's just a tiny little gap. The cardstock, you can kind of train it into place. But then I like to, so I'm just holding those tabs down. Basically, we're just putting this on the front here. I'm holding the tabs down, and then I'm going to glue the sides down. So they're not going to perfectly line up right there like they did on the base. That's just to give a little bit of space for that lid to fit over the base of the box. So I do like to kind of do that over the box base itself. So I'll just do one side at a time, but we're going to put liquid glue on it just like the other tabs. And then I'm going to close that down. And it's just a little bit extra there, not much. Do the same thing on the opposite side. There we go. And because we did all those miter cuts, everything fits into place. Just using the interior box as leverage there, and then you can open this too and pinch everything into place. Of course, I forgot to do one thing, which was add the sentiment, but I did the same thing on the sample. So do what I say, not what I do. How many times do I say that to you guys? But we're gonna stamp the sentiment and then attempt to glue it in here. I do recommend you do that before we glue the box together, but we can make it work, okay? I just love the way that this box goes together. So there's that. Why don't I show you a couple things that fit in it, and then we'll decorate the box, okay? Got my little candy bin here. This will fit quite a bit. I was having fun kind of looking at what would fit. Altoids mints fit perfectly, well, perfectly width-wise. There's a little bit of extra space, but you could put mints and some other stuff in there, some mini chapsticks or something like that. These are old, but these lint snowflakes, you could fit quite a few in there, maybe like 3 or 4 of them, or maybe 4 or 5, I'm not quite sure. Ghirardelli squares will fit as well. I don't have any of the regular size Ghirardelli squares, which I'm giggling about because I probably ate them all. Those Demet's turtle bites, you could put a couple of those in there. Obviously gold coins would be really pretty with the copper. Let's see. Hershey's Kisses, of course. Nerds will fit, but you could get quite a few nerds in there. What else do I have? York peppermint patties fit. I don't think Hershey's snack size fit. Those are too long. Tony's Chocolonely. Those will fit, a couple of those. That would be a really sweet treat in there. Let's see. If you're in the UK, the Love Hearts, those will go in there, a few of those. What else? Andy's Mints, you could put a handful of those in there for the Thanksgiving table. Laffy Taffies will fit. What else? Tic Tacs will not. Those are too tall. Ferrero's will fit in there. Lindor truffles, mini Tic Tacs. Those will be swimming in there. So yeah, you get the idea. Quite a bit of candy. An assortment of candy would be really cute in there. So there you go. A versatile half sheet gift box. And you could even put like a gift in there, jewelry or something like that, okay? All right. First, let's do a little bit of stamping. All right, so I have I forgot to write this measurement down. 7/8 of an inch by 2 3/8. So it's the same width as the designer series paper on the inside. Okay, so 7/8 by, what did I say? 2 3/8. So I'm going to stamp the sentiment blessed Blessed to have you in my life. I can't read that backwards. Oh, and we're going to use early espresso as the ink. I'm going to stamp it once on, or a couple of times on the grid paper if I need to, just because I want to try to get it straight. I didn't even attempt to put it on the block straight, but I think the little humps on the top of this, and you'll have to look at your own stamp as well, depending on how it's cut. But I believe if I have those lined up, like level, I should say, that then the stamp should be straight. Yes. All right, so let's see if I can do this. I cut myself a second one if I needed to. I'm giggling because you just never know. Let's try that and hope. Hope, hope, hope. That's a little crooked. This is why paper is two-sided. So I'm going to flip it over. Try it again. I'm going to get 4 tries because I've only cut in one more piece. So where did I go wrong with that one? I went up too high on the right. Okay, good to know. Let's try this. Nope. All right, hold on. Now I went down too far on the right. Isn't that so funny? Okay. I feel like I have a little fuzzy somewhere on the my. Hold on, let me grab a baby wipe. Of course, that's super inky because I didn't stamp it off. I should have done that first. There we go. Okay, try it again. I know you guys do the same thing, so hopefully it's making you feel that I'm more humid. Humid just came out of my mouth. That's the kind of week that I've had. All right, let's try like that. There we go. All right, blessed to have you in my life. And I say the same about each and every one of you. All right, so normally I would tell you to glue this before you put the box together, but it's a little easier to fit it into the lid than it is into the base. So I'm just going to start by kind of opening this up, and then I'm just going to line up that left edge right at the edge of the card or the designer series paper. And then I'll let the other side drop. And then I can actually get my fingers in there to kind of slide things around. There we go. So yeah, I would normally have told you to do that before you put the box together. So I'm going to use my glue bottle. Just press down. There we go. All right, so there's that little hidden sentiment, which I love. And then we're going to stamp Autumn Wishes onto, I think I told you, but this is very vanilla. And early espresso ink. All right, and then we're going to die cut that using the traditional labels dies. This awesome one that's got great stitching on it. And while we do that, let me bring in my die cutting machine. I'm also going to cut, at least on this run, I also want to cut one of the flowers out of the foil. I'll get that lined up first. That looks pretty good. And then this guy, let me trim off a little bit here. And then we'll do one leaf, maximizing our trip through the die cutting machine. This negative is really cute too. Excuse me, thank you. So that came out of the middle of the leaf. And we're gonna cut one more leaf. All right. It's just such a rich metallic paper. Isn't that so pretty? Oh, I love that. All right, let me pop out the center of that before I forget. But again, you could do something really cool with these. It's gonna take a little tiny bead of glue, but super cute. All right. Now we're gonna kind of build our decoration here for the top of our box. All right, so let's see. I'm grabbing my silicone craft mat, which occurred to me I didn't put that on the supplies list. So see how curly Q this guy gets? I'm just gonna come in with my bone folder. So I've got bone folder, linen thread, and thumb. And I'm just gonna kind of like you would do with the curling ribbon. I'm just gonna try to smooth out those kinks a little bit, okay? So we're gonna do this first. I'm gonna do kind of a faux bow with the linen threads. I'm just gonna kind of zigzag back and forth. Let's see how big of the loops I want. Trim. Okay. I'm gonna, on the back of my sentiment, I'm just gonna take some Stampin' Seal Plus. And I'm just gonna put a little bit in the center. I'm gonna put a little bit more for the leaves in a moment, but I want this to go that way. So I'm going to, it's actually easier for me to use reverse tweezers, but hopefully you can see, once I use the reverse tweezers, how this is kind of pieced together. It's just like a little S formation, and I want this to go like that. Okay, I'm just gonna place this in the center on that Stampin' Seal Plus. You could use a glue dot as well, but this gives me a little bit of control. I can shift things around if I need to. I kind of like the way that looks. My tails are a little wonky, but we will fix that in a moment. But that looks pretty evenly spaced. So now I'm gonna come in and put a little bit more Stampin' Seal in the corners. Again, you can use glue dots for this as well, but I'm going to place now my leaves. So I want this one to kind of pop out like that way, I think. That looks pretty good, and it's just sticking to that Stampin' Seal. And that looks pretty good to me. So, got my little tail sticking back on itself. All right, so see how the tail is being really wonky and it's kind of curving this way? I'm gonna tell it who's boss. I'm going to curl it the other way. So I kind of want it to go in the same direction as the loop. So again, just, there we go, that looks pretty good. And then this one's looking pretty good too. There we go. All right, so now the last thing I'm gonna do is grab some dimensionals, and we're gonna use the dimensionals kind of strategically on the back, just gonna kind of hold things into place. So I'll kind of put one here, kind of holding that linen thread in place. And then I'm just gonna place, I just did 4 on the back. All right. Now I like to use my little reverse tweezers. We didn't really need the silicone mat. I probably won't add it to the list because I didn't use any liquid glue. But this gives me a little bit of control for where to place this, and we're just gonna center it on the lid. like so. There we go. So cute. And if any of the tails seem a little long, are they long? No, I think those are good. Just adds a little bit of texture, and then we're going to add one of the streaked dots. Just one of the small ones. I'm going to pop that kind of right above the M. Just another added texture element. And that is our half sheet gift box for autumn. Such a sweet little gift box. Again, you could put treats, gifts, and then you've got the little hidden sentiment in there. Blessed to have you in my life. So there we go. This is the sample from before. But I love this box and how easy it is. And it would be just, whoops, look at what just happened. It just flew off my box. Let's try that again. I didn't push down hard enough, I guess. Now I got to tell the embellishment who's boss. There we go. So there we go. You can catch that little metallic paper. Oh, so pretty. I love all the products in this suite. All right, so that's the scoop. The products I used tonight, those are linked in the description. There will be a project sheet that goes out via email tomorrow. I will also add it to the video description. Let's see, to join my email list, just go to thepaperpixie.com/subscribe. You'll see that in the video description as well, and you can get that emailed to your inbox. And now we're going to jump into tonight's Q&A. So just a quick reminder, if you've got a question for me and you haven't already thrown it into the chat with a Q, put a Q in front of your question. That makes it into my queue. Save the queue for questions. I'm about 20 to 30 seconds ahead of you. So if I don't answer your question at the tail end, it just means I'm a little ahead of you. Just email me at support@thepaperpixie.com. I'll be happy to answer your questions. All right. Q. Let's see. We're going to start with Sue. Will I be buying an advent calendar? This is a really good question. I haven't made up my mind yet. The only reason is because I'm a business demonstrator, and once the advent calendar sells out, then I won't be able to demonstrate the advent calendar. So I'm not sure if I'm going to buy it yet or not. If I were not a business demonstrator, absolutely I would buy it because it's something that I would use all year round for sure. So we had a chance to open up all 12 doors in Salt Lake City, and it is just such a cool one. I think the hardest thing for those of you that have bought it or will buy it is not opening all 12 doors at once. I'm not sure I would have the restraint. My dad used to always call me Julie, IG for Lido, and IG stood for instant gratification. Anyways, I haven't decided yet, but good question. Correct, Maria. So the stamp set is not one of the 12 items in the advent calendar. It is in addition to it, okay? So, it's just such a great value, and the products are very, very cool. So I don't want to give anything away because I know many of you prefer for things to be a surprise, but it is an amazing, amazing set of products. Let's see. Ooh, good question, Cindy. Does your mini Empress ever continue running after the plate is through? Mine does not. If yours is, I would contact Anna Griffin support and see if it's faulty. I did not have Cincinnati chili, Amy. I am not a fan of the cinnamon in Cincinnati chili. I joked with the kids. I'm like, ooh, we should get some Skyline. And when I told them about it, they're like, ooh. It's an acquired taste, much like coffee is and so many other things. But I can't say I'm a purist, but yeah, I'm not a fan of Cincinnati chili. I have tried it. I love the concept of chili on spaghetti. I've done that many times before, but my chili does not have cinnamon in it. Cinnamon. Let's see. So the dots are in between. We've had lower profile dots than these. They're not as high as some of the dots we've had. But I honestly think they would be okay going through the postage machines as long as you put a piece of cardstock or like designer series paper backer over them to kind of reduce the speed bump. They're raised, but they're not low profile. kind of hard to answer that question because they don't put in like what the height of them is, just the width or the diameter. Ooh, if I could pick 2 products that Stampin' Up! Does not sell, what would they be? Oh, that they don't sell, or they sold before, or did somebody, or is that one coming up?
2 questions.
Okay. If I could pick 2 products that Stampin' Up! Does not sell, what would they be? One that I have suggested to Stampin' Up! Because I've seen it before, but the crafty corners that I used a few weeks ago, the ones that help you line up layers. I would love for us to carry something like that. And I'd love for Stampin' Up! To carry an electronic die cutting machine. Because I think there's so many of us that would benefit from an electronic die cutting machine than the manual ones, just to save shoulders and things like that. But that's what's off the top of my head. How's that for an answer on the fly? Let's see. Any word on new paper snips yet? No, I've not heard anything. They're still actively looking for an alternative. Hopefully we'll hear something soon, because that's a big deal, having scissors to paper craft. Let's see. Okay, I thought I saw this one. If I could bring back any 2 Stampin' Up! Products, what would they be? I've said this before, I think. I feel like I've had this question in the past before. The diagonal plate for the Simply Scored and or the envelope punch board, because those 2 things, I don't know if I could pick a favorite between the 2, or maybe those are my 2 answers, but I loved the different types of 3D projects we could do with the diagonal score lines. I've figured out ways to work around it, you know, with the black Sharpie line down the middle of the Simply Scored, but definitely those are 2 things. I think the other product that I really miss are, gosh, it'll be hard for me to narrow it down to 2, but I'm just going to say the tag topper punches. Any of the tag topper punches, I loved working with those to make 3D projects. How's that for answers? Let's see. Ooh, Jean, you're making wine glass charms for several family members. This would be really cute for that. I think you could wrap it in a little bit of tissue paper, and it would be really cute to put in a box like this. This box is really easy to make, uses a half sheet of cardstock. But yeah, I just wrapped the wine charm in a little piece of tissue paper, and I think it'd be perfect for that. Yes, Cheryl, if it's still in stock by October 1st. I have no idea if this is going to sell out fast or if it'll be around for a little while. I don't know the inventory quantity that they ordered initially. The reason why it's while supplies last is because of the lead time. In order to get it restocked, they just don't have time to restock it. So it is a while supplies last item. But yes, if it's still available October 1st, in any time during October, you can add it to a starter kit. That'd be a great suggestion. Get the advent calendar, and then you could get it for either version, the 35 for $125 or the 99 for $185. Let's see. Does Stampin' Up! Have any stamp blocks with grid lines to get the sentiment straight when stamping? We used to sell like alignment stickers. We no longer sell those. Like any stamp positioning tools will have grid marks on them. You might be able to find something available. I don't know, whether it be Amazon or Etsy or something like that you could add to your blocks. But I'm kind of old school, and I typically will just stamp on grid paper to make sure that I kind of know, what angle I need to put it to get it straight. Otherwise, I try to use a stamp positioning tool like the Misty, and then I can kind of, tweak and play around with it until I get it right, and then every time I stamp it straight. Let's see. Tony's trying to build her ink pad collection, wondering what would be the top 5 colors to purchase first. I see so many beautiful projects with vibrant colors. I want them all. Ooh, this is going to be a totally personal decision. The reason why I say that is we all gravitate towards different colors that we love. So my best suggestion is to go to the You can look at all the colors on the website or even look at them in the catalog and figure out which color family you like the most. So I am a brights person, so I always gravitate towards brights. So for me, I would likely pick like my top 5 brights colors, or I might pick 4 and then a neutral, like something from the neutrals. The other thing you can do while you're building your ink pad collection is to spend a little bit on the uninked Stampin' spots and buy ink refills, and you can kind of test, you know, with a little mini ink spot to try to figure out which colors you want to invest in the full pad. Because the investment of, I will always tell you that if you're going to buy an ink pad, you always need to buy the ink refill with it. That way you're never stuck with a dry ink pad and then you can't use it because you don't have the ink refill yet. So whenever you buy ink pads, buy the ink refills. But for a smaller investment, you could buy the ink refills and they're packs of 5, the uninked Stampin' spots, and then you can kind of test some colors and see which ones you like better. But it's so hard to answer that because it's everybody's color preferences are different. Some of my favorites I'll just throw out there. Night of Navy is one of my top favorites. Real Red is another one. You can't go wrong with Real Red or Cherry Cobbler. Cherry Cobbler's more rich of a red. Hold on, I'm looking. Yeah, that's a tough one. I gravitate towards the blues, the reds, the purples. Purple's a pretty specific personal color though. So yeah, it's a tough one. Just look at the color families and then start to kind of build your collection from there. Again, consider doing Stampin' spots and ink refills. That can be a lesser expensive way to build your collection until you figure out what your favorites are, and then you can buy the full ink pads, okay? Ooh, do I have a trick for getting my layers straight? I don't really have a trick, Nancy. It just comes from years of eyeballing experience. I don't know. I feel like I have gotten better at looking at layers and getting them straight. One of the things I love about liquid glue is it gives me some time to shift just a little bit until really that I feel like my eyes are like, yep, that's in the right spot. The other thing, if you're having trouble with getting layers straight, is you can look at something like Crafty Corners. They're little acrylic, different widths that you can put using, I typically would use like the Simply Scored or the paper trimmer where you've got something with a 90-degree corner and you can position things that way with these like a little acrylic corners that can help. Is that what she's asking about? Let's see. So I don't take the protective covering, but this is what I'm talking about. So for example, this one is an 1/8 of an inch crafty corner. And so if you've got a layer that's 1/4 of an inch smaller, so it'd be 1/8 of an inch on either side, you can use these little plastic or acrylic corners. Like here is 5/16 of an inch, which I never do anything 5/16 of an inch, but all different widths. This is 5/8. I found these on Etsy. I think I linked them a few live streams back, but this was one of the products I'd love if Stampin' Up! Carried something like this, because I think it would really help, especially card makers, get things lined up. But see, they're all different widths, and that just helps get those layers straight. So hopefully that helps you, Nancy. Ooh, Marianne, I'm not going to give any hints. I want it to be a total surprise. But once I reveal it, which is it's not designed yet, I've just met the designer and I've given them my idea. I know it's going to be a long wait, 2027, but once I reveal it, you'll kind of say, I see why she picked that. So that's all I'm going to tell you. Oh, goodness. Have I seen the new stamp packaging? I have. I got to see it in Salt Lake City when I was there for the Million Sales Retreat. I'm wondering if there will be stamped acetate sheets with the stamp images. So the stamps themselves are going to be exactly like they are now. So the images will not be on the acetate sheets. And I know that that can be frustrating because then you don't know where the stamp goes back, especially when you're not sticking it to the plastic case. Gonna trap you in there. So their stamps are going to be exactly like they are now. Let me find one. Like the clear, you've got one side that's a little bit thicker than the other side. You're going to want to keep both of them. But yeah, there won't be any images printed on the acetate. And that is really a production decision so that they can produce the stamp sets faster. The pockets are great. They are slightly different than these pockets. See how shiny these are? They're a little bit more matte and has a little bit of texture to it. But again, they're 5 5/8 inch in width by 9 inches in height. And instead of having this like half moon, it's literally a slit and then you just tuck it in. So it's actually pretty easier to close. All right, let's see. I do not make 5x7 cards, Terry, and honestly, the only reason is just how much cardstock 5x7 uses. So I love the fact that A2 card, which is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, just uses a half sheet of cardstock. I just don't typically do 5x7. So, and it's funny. I have always struggled with scrapbooking. In fact, I've never attempted scrapbooking. I watched my mom scrapbook. She got into it right before she passed away. She was a creative memories consultant. She had so much fun with scrapbooking, but I'm intimidated by larger canvases. And 5x7, while it's not that much bigger than 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, that's a little bit more real estate to come up with design. So I just, again, gravitate to just the A2 cards. The dimensions, again, Denise, I'm assuming you're talking about the finished dimensions. It is, or maybe I didn't give you that. I wrote it down. But anyways, it is 2 by 2 1/2 by 1 1/2. So, whoops, 2, 2 1/2, 1 1/2. In my mind, I thought I told you that, but I don't think I did. I did not strategically cut out the designer series paper squares. I did try to cut them a little bit in order. So like this piece continues to this piece, but that's really the only continuation on that edge. The sides are not continuations and the back is not either because it's going in a different direction. But I did not strategically pick the patterns. I just cut a strip and then cut little pieces out of it and just went with whatever pattern was there. So full sheets of designer series paper that I don't use, Jennifer, once it retires, I will chop it down to 6x6 and then put it into mystery boxes or bags. I haven't done that in a long time. I have lots of designer series paper. So I'll either sell it in like bundles or something along those lines. But anything that's a full sheet of 12x12, or if there's enough to get a 6x6 inch piece, I'll chop it all down and put it in. Like I put a whole assortment of papers into like a little collection or bundle and sell it that way. So Rosie, this is not something that I have control over. She's saying, do you know why I'm not getting notices you're live? It's completely up to the notification settings you have on your YouTube account plus your devices. You want to check to make sure that you are subscribed and subscribed, but also the little bell icon, make sure like by default, I forget what the option is. All is not default. So make sure to click the bell underneath the video and make sure that it says all. And then the other thing is just to check, the notification settings on your device. So if you're typically using an iPad or an iPhone or, Android or something along those lines, look at the notification settings for the YouTube app, if that's what you're using, and you might have notifications turned off, but also check in your YouTube account as well. A gift card does not fit in the box, Linda. Let's see. Does Stampin' Up! Have a centering ruler so you could stamp sentiments first, then cut to size after? We do not. The only other, like on the paper trimmer, because this part is clear, sometimes you can utilize that to stamp and then cut to size. But we don't have a centering ruler, no. I think My Sweet Petunia has one that specifically has a groove that you can put a little craft knife in there. So you could check that one out, but no, Stampin' Up! Does not have one. All right, I have reached the end of the cues. Thank you guys so much for joining me tonight. If you enjoyed tonight's project or you learned a tip or trick or two, make sure you take a moment to give us a thumbs up here on YouTube and subscribe to the channel if you're not already subscribed. Hit the bell icon so you get all notifications. We are live every Wednesday, except for next Wednesday. I will not be live next Wednesday. That is September, I can't do the math. Oh, that's October 1st. Is that what next Wednesday is? Yeah, I will not be live on October 1st. I will be back on October 8th for episode 391. I will be at Creator Camp next week. Tomorrow night is my Pixie Patron members only stream. We'd love to have you join us. That's at 8 p.m. Eastern time. You do have to be a channel member to participate in that, but it's just $4.99 per month. And I'm going to share 2 cards with my Pixie Patrons tomorrow. They'll get a download with card templates as well. So that's tomorrow night, September 25th at 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern time. That's episode 24 of the Pixie Patron members only. Be sure to check out the 12 Days of Crafting Advent Calendar. That is linked in the video description. All the products I used tonight are linked in the description as well. And if you're on my email list, you'll get the project sheet emailed out to you tomorrow. I will also add it to the YouTube description as well. Again, October 1st, so next Wednesday is when that starter kit special starts. $35 for $125 or $99 for $185. So lots of amazing, that's a ton of extra additional value with the starter kit, and it's a great way to test drive the demonstrator benefits. So as always, reach out to me if you have questions about that. We'll talk about that more. That's the whole month of October that's available, and we'd love to welcome you into the Stampin' Up! Family with that amazing starter kit special. So that's the scoop. I hope you guys have a wonderful and blessed week. I will see you for Live with the Paper Pixie on Wednesday, October 8th, 2025 for episode 391. I'll see my Pixie patrons tomorrow night for episode 24. Thanks. Here's a shout out to my Pixie patrons, and we'll see you next time. Don't forget, all you need are stamps, ink, and a little paper pixie. Take good care. Bye.